Welcome back to Odd Socks. So today we are going to start our recycled polytunnel. Now we've already made one early last year, and now today is where we're going to be starting our new polytunnel. Now obviously in the background I'm just burning some of the last bits of pallets that we're actually not going to be using, some of the offcuts and bits, because yes, we are going to make this polytunnel out of pallets and trampoline parts. Now you will need some battens or other bits of scraps of wood, and we're actually buying those battens or using some of the ones that we already have because it really does give it some strength to the actual structure. But we'll show you how we make our polytunnel. Now we did make one earlier last year, and that is also available on the channel. Now most of that was time-lapse. Now this video there will be some time-lapse parts because, well, obviously it's going to be quite time consuming and it won't be completed in one day. In fact, we will be just doing the pallets and the hoops and the strengthening of the windows and things, and then eventually we'll be getting the cover. So before I start anything, I've got to let this fire burn out. Now it shouldn't take too long, another hour or so, but in the meantime I need to get planning on some other things. So let me show you some of the bits that we're actually using for this project. Now these are the pallets that we're going to be using, or some of the pallets. Now we actually did buy these pallets in and they were about £1 a piece with delivery, so it's not too bad. They're not overly heavy like the other ones that we had though, so we're going to strengthen the structure even more as we build. All we have to do to prep for these is to saw off these ends so we can fit these side by side flush. This is the other pile of pallets, plus we have one more. We won't need all these pallets, but it's good to be able to sort through which ones we want to use and don't want to use. Now these are our 10-foot hoops. Now to use them, you just put half of them together, so they're half a hoop. And this will give us the roof of our new polytunnel. Now all those little bits of poles from the trampoline parts that are around everywhere, we'll be using some of these as well to give the polytunnel some structure and to actually grip the hoop onto the pallets. Now we'll be using metal strap which will screw in to hold those hoops in place, because at the end of the day the last thing you want is to actually lose your polytunnel, especially since we've had so many storms of late. Now I reckon that's going to be an ongoing thing, so to get it right in the first place is real key. So try and use the best quality stuff that you can use. Now talking of best quality stuff, we get our cover from First Tunnels. Now we have found that this last year of us having that cover, it's been absolutely fantastic. It's really, really strong and it doesn't tear that easy. Now you can get much cheaper alternatives, but sometimes they will last only one season and then you're going to have to buy another cover anyway. Now I think the last cover that I bought for my original polytunnel was around the 150 mark, give or take. I think it was off the top of my head. And I really do recommend that particular polytunnel plastic because it's been absolutely fantastic. And we'll be definitely going to them again for this new polytunnel. Now this is the polytunnel that we made early last year. It's made of pallets and it's made of trampoline hoops and obviously the good old plastic, which is fantastic quality. Now it has gone a little bit loose because we did actually put the plastic on early spring before it warmed up, and then the heat of the summer has actually made it stretch somewhat. But you can always re-tighten it depending on how you've attached it to your polytunnel. But I'm not too concerned, and it hasn't really been that flappy in the wind, but I think we probably will pull it down a little bit and re-secure it around about here into the sides of the pallets using a long piece of batten. Otherwise, if you use individual nails, there's a really good chance that that will tear and pull at your polytunnel. Now our window for this polytunnel that we made last year was actually a bar fridge that we managed to get hold of, and that's what that is. Now this just slides open for when we want ventilation. And it was a godsend last year when the weather got really, really hot. But again, it's another recycled material. Now you could use double glazing window, you could not put any window in at all and just use a mesh side. There's lots and lots of different ways of actually doing it. Now we're going to be using UPVC on our new polytunnel because we had a window from the original building that was on that plot when we took it over and when we demolished the actual thing. Now it is very, very heavy, but it should be fine, and we'll have to frame that in before we go. Now one of the most important things that you need to do is decide where you're going to put that polytunnel. Do you want full intense heat? Do you want something a little bit more dappled shade? Your polytunnel will heat up from the strength of the sun. That's when it gets a lot warmer in there. So make sure that you've got plenty of ventilation too. For this build that I'm going to do, the new build, I'm going to make sure I've got ventilation in my door this time round. As this one, we didn't put any in. Once you've decided where you're going to put your polytunnel, you've just got to prepare your surface, and that's exactly what we've got to do. We're on quite an incline of a slope here on our allotment, and because we're going across the allotment, we've got to make sure that the one side is level with the other side. So that's one of the first jobs that we've got to do, is make it more level so it doesn't look like topsy-turvy, and it can weaken the structure if the wind catches it too. So that's the first job after this fire's died down that I've got to get on with. Now we've put some of the pallets together to give us an idea of the length, but we can only get 7 on this site, and because our pallets are all different, we just wanted to make sure what size we've actually got. But this is very uneven ground, and like I said before, we now need to make sure that this is flat and level. So Jamie's just digging out some of the soil so we can get it as level as what we possibly can. It's never going to be perfectly flat and level because it's just too much to be able to do on this slope, and at the end of the day we're all for easy gardening. So we'll get that levelled on, and then at the other end we'll start putting the pallets going across. Now we already know roughly the span of our hoop because we put one of our hoops up, so we know roughly where it's going to be. But if we get the one side in at the end and then all this one side, it will give us a really good idea of exactly where we're going to put it. So welcome back to the next day. So we made a big start on the hoops. As you can see, we've pretty much got them up. Now this is the day after us getting the hoops up. I didn't get a chance to film yesterday, there was a lot of faffing about. When it comes to the hoops, we've got them evenly spaced out. Because we already had the hoops, we made sure that there wasn't too much of a distance between each one. It's around about a metre difference in between, give or take a few centimetres either side. Now what we do have to do now, we've still got a lot to get done. We still have to put bricks underneath where the ground is very, very unlevel, because we did dig out the one side, but the ground was exceptionally unlevel. Now you could put some footings in or some sleepers or embed some bricks or anything like that that you want to do, absolutely fine. Both me and my husband struggle at the moment physically, so we're actually going to do it afterwards in the gaps that we need to put them in. Yes, I know it's probably a lazy way, but we kind of did that in the other one to a certain degree and it worked fine. But it's big. It really is a big polytunnel, which I'm really pleased with. Now this is the maximum size that we can actually have on this allotment, but it's going to give me so much opportunity to be able to grow everything that I actually want to grow, alongside the other polytunnel, which is mainly going to be used for tomatoes and maybe some basil. So I'm getting excited. That's a nice big floor space that we've actually got in here. And I should be able to fit 2 nice long beds down either side with a narrowish, enough of a path that I can fit a wheelbarrow on down the middle. Now I was going to split it into 3 beds, have a little bit of an open area and have another bed down the middle. But actually I think I prefer to have 2 beds. But this isn't set in stone, I'm not 100% sure yet. I might leave the path in the middle a little bit wider and actually have somewhere for some pots and plants that way, because I haven't 100% decided exactly what's going in here apart from my chillies and probably some Cape gooseberries. Now this isn't finished yet, nowhere near finished. Obviously we've got to build our door frame, which is obviously here at the moment. Now we'll have to build some struts going up to the top, and then we'll actually fill out this area here with some battens, giving the whole structure a massive amount of strength, especially on the front. Now the door we will build to size with whatever size that we actually have here, because what you find, because we've got 2 different pallets, it was never going to be an exact amount of size of a door, so it will come to that when we get to that one. The very far end, that's where we're having that UPVC window. Now it is very, very heavy and it should fit, but we'll have to batten around that window to make sure that it's completely secure. So one, it doesn't fall out when we try to open it, or any winds or storms or anything else that don't pop it out. It's quite a simple thing to do, but it is quite heavy. So that again is on another list, but it won't be for this week at least. I'll be sorting out the little jobs throughout the whole of the week, but the framing, really I need a 2-man job just to make sure that somebody else can hold certain parts while I screw or cut the actual pieces of wood. But I'm actually getting really, really excited. Now the cover will go on over the next month, maybe 2 months. But in the meantime, there is still loads for me to do. We know it's not perfect and we're not going for perfection. We're going for something that's safe and secure to grow our chillies. Probably give it a little bit of a paint as well. This just helps it last just that little bit longer, because even though it's all going to be undercover, the amount of humidity in a polytunnel can really start rotting wood quite quickly if you don't treat it in the first place. So that's the other job I've got to get done. Plus I've got to level the whole ground out, so it's easier for me to do my no-dig beds. Now I'm not going to raise them up at all, I am just going to put compost down each side. Now I'm doing no-dig beds and I can hear people shouting why bother or anything like that. We've had so much good success for no-dig beds and it's made it so much easier for me. I'd rather just carry on doing the no-dig beds, or shall we say the less disturbance beds. Like I've said before, we have got another video on the previous polytunnel build and we're going to follow exactly pretty much what we've done with that on this build as well. But I really can't wait to see this, and I'm really excited for the new growing season. This is going to give me so much opportunity, and the fact that it's my choices what goes in here and what goes on, that's even better. So guys, that's where we've got up to so far. I'll probably release another video in another week or so when we start doing a little bit more. Those finishing touches, the door frame, the window frame, and the actual cover itself will probably be in a third instalment for that one. But hopefully you've all stayed safe and have all survived the local storms if you're here living in the UK. And thanks again guys for subscribing and watching. You really are an amazing group of people, and I'm really thankful for that. Hope you're all good and stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.